Hey guys, it's time to go over some more character changes coming up in April for Street Fighter V. This time we're going to be covering Ryu. So let's start with the first change, Ryu's standing light kick. So they expanded the forward hitbox of this. So that means it hits farther and it has more range. This has actually been reverted from Season 1 where Ryu actually received a nerf to his standing light kick where they shrunk the hitbox in the forward direction. So basically they made their range a lot less. It's the opposite. So this was a really requested change. In fact, this is one of the biggest nerfs that Ryu received in Season 2. So I'm sure a lot of people are happy that they restored it. Seriously, take a look at this range. Look at Ryu's light kick. It's going right through Ken's leg. The range is so poor. No light attack actually can reach Ken at this range. Now, besides the obvious nerf to Ryu's mid-range game when they reduced the range on a standing light kick, because it's 4 frames, it's quite fast. Another problem is that a lot of his light confirms or light strings, now his standing light kick doesn't reach. So if I go crouching light punch, and standing light kick, it doesn't reach anymore. Or crouching light kick, crouching light punch, standing light kick won't reach anymore as well. There's also some medium confirms that don't reach anymore, so standing medium punch, the light kick are out of range, or crouching medium punch and the standing light kick are out of range. And if you go into training mode, or trials I mean, it'll revert it back to Season 1 changes for Ryu, and you can actually test it out yourself and see that it used to be in range for these strings. Another issue with Ryu's standing light kick nerf is that a lot of characters were getting away with murder on him with things that were like -4, but Ryu was just out of range to punish them when he could before in Season 1. Alex's light chop is another good example because this is -4 as well, and characters just don't respect Ryu as much, and they could just be a little bit more reckless because Ryu's standing light kick range has been nerfed. So this standing light kick change is a good start in the right direction. It's got great range for a 4-framer, especially since his 3-frame light punch has like no range at all. The only thing is Capcom wasn't specific if this was being fully reverted back to the Season 1 version. They simply said they're expanding the forward hitbox. Whereas some characters they actually say reverted back to Season 1. So I'm not sure if it'll hit as far as it used to completely, but like I said, it's definitely going to help Ryu. Next up we have Ryu's standing medium punch. This is another mid-range normal that Capcom wants to buff. They expanded the forward hitbox. So this was also nerfed in Season 2 where they shrunk the hitbox in the forward direction, the same as his light kick. So it looks like that is being reverted as well to the Season 1 version. So now Ryu will have decent range for a 4-framer and a 5-framer attack. And like I said, it will make up for his low-range standing light punch. So Ryu's mid-range game should be a lot stronger now. So once again, Capcom didn't say if they're fully reverting it back to the Season 1 version, but more range on Ryu's standing light punch will definitely help. Considering this, this links into Super, for example. Another thing is that it links into Sweep on counter hit. And just in general, when most Ryu players like to poke with 2 medium punch buttons, and in this current version, if you're not close enough, it'll just completely whiff because the second one just doesn't have the range it needs. So this will definitely help him in the April patch as well. Alright, moving on to Ryu's medium uppercut. They added a hurt box for frames 3 to 6 and added invincibility for airborne attacks for frames 1 to 6. So I already went over all the uppercut changes that are happening to all the characters with these kind of specials. So Ryu's medium punch will now never trade as long as the opponent is in the air. So it's a much better anti-air. It'll pretty much be Ryu's go-to anti-air. At the same time, it will no longer be a reversal because now it has no invincibility at all when you use it on the ground. So you want to use the hard punch, you can for that. So speaking of which, Ryu's hard punch uppercut, they added attack and projectile invincibility for frames 3 to 6. So same thing, I already made a video going over all these kind of changes. This will be your meterless reversal now if you have a choice, but it's still not invincible on frames 1 to 2. So if the opponent is sticking out a normal, like a meaty on you as you're getting up, this still won't work. But if you're gonna wake up with an uppercut, then use either the hard punch or the EX version. Another thing too is that since this has projectile invincibility starting on frame 3, this will go through things such as Akuma's Fireball, for example, or Ibuki's Kunai, or block strings that lead into Fireball, for example. So it definitely is a buff for both of Ryu's uppercuts. And finally we have Ryu's crouching hard punch. It says change the move animation. Obviously, I have no idea what that means, guys, because they didn't show us or give us any more details, even in the description. So I'm not sure what this means. Right now, Ryu's crouching hard punch is kind of unique because it's one of the only normals that when you hit the opponent, it just stops in its track. It has pretty decent range. It's possible that they're actually changing the actual hitbox Like the entire animation, and it might be like a better anti-air, or it might have more horizontal range. It depends. If we saw it, we would have a hint on what it could do. If the opponent is, if you hit him in the air as an anti-air, you can see that it hits with the tail end of it instead. But if they're close, it still stops in its tracks when they hit deeper. Another thing too is that it kind of has like 2 different hit boxes to it, so maybe they'll make it do 2 hits instead of 1. Honestly, there's no point of guessing because we just simply won't know until we see it in April. So my final verdict on Ryu for this patch alone is I would say Ryu is overall buffed. His mid-range game is definitely stronger, more range on a standing light kick, more range on a standing medium punch. So that will definitely help him in neutral, as well as his medium punch uppercut got a universal buff, so now it'll probably work as an anti-air and won't trade. So his anti-air will be more consistent, and since his anti-air is more consistent, that means his zoning will be stronger, because it'll be harder for the opponent to jump in on him. And, you know, Ryu is definitely not as good as Season 1 Ryu, even after these changes. I feel like since they didn't buff Ryu's throw, that was another really huge nerf to Ryu's throw. I feel like the opponent gets knocked too far, because, you know, Ryu, he's not really a mix-up character. You know, he doesn't put you in the vortex or anything like that. Usually he'll hit you once and that'll be it. But, you know, when you're trying to frame trap your opponent's just not scared of being thrown by Ryu. They'll take the throw because it resets back to neutral. Even in the corner, you're not too close to the opponent anymore. So it's just not threatening. So it's a lot harder for Ryu to, you know, apply that kind of pressure when they have no fear like that. Another thing too is that even though they didn't nerf it in Season 2, I feel like Ryu's V-trigger is kind of, I don't know what the word would be, but it's getting outdated, I would say. Outdated compared to a lot of the other characters' V-triggers. I feel like Ryu's V-trigger just drains too fast. Way too fast, I feel. Even though it's a 2-bar V-trigger, honestly, if they just make it drain slower and made it 3-bar, I'm sure people wouldn't even care. There was a lot of changes, you know, with Ryu's V-trigger where his standing hard punch got buffed inside of it as well. And, you know, these are cool changes, but the problem is when your V-trigger drains so fast and even completely depletes when you do your super, you don't really get to utilize these buffs in the first place. So it's kind of strange. It's kind of strange. So that's a wrap, guys. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Let me know what you think about these Ryu changes. Do you think these are enough to push him to the top tier level, or do you think Ryu will just be around mid-range and he still needs more work? Don't forget to like the video, guys, and be sure to subscribe to the channel, especially if you're new, and I'll be covering more characters in detail for their patch notes in the future. So till then, guys, take care.